right. So we're here. This is, a thing that's the Lost Omens kind of, but not really, but also yes.
Lost Omens After Hours.
Yes.
We've gathered here today.
Wait, what? R.I.P. drop off.
Oh, rip drop off.
I was talking like marriage style. You're going completely other end of the
Oh, I
spectrum
thought
there.
you're. I guess that is how you open marriages traditionally.
Yeah.
My bad.
I don't think marriages are open traditionally.
Typically not.
Typically not.
This
But-
is what we're talking about.
We're talking
Oh, that's why
about
you took the book.
the Lost Omens Ancestry Guide.
I've been so excited for this book. I was hounding Bearded Dragon. Like, I was in there like 3 days in a row. Like, you got it yet? You got it yet? And he's like, no.
He started to just post screenshots. And by screenshot, I mean he was taking a picture of the computer screen with his phone
Who does that? That's ridiculous.
to show us the UPS tracking and that it had not been delivered yet, but was expected sometime that day by 9 p.m.
I mean, to be fair, that's just because he doesn't answer direct questions.
Correct.
So instead of answering it, the picture did the job.
It did.
It just made me even more like, is it there yet?
And it was
It's
not
today.
like a picture of his child sleeping between like stacks of board games. So,
Accurate.
which is typically what we get when we ask him a question.
It's been a while, but yeah.
It's been a minute because his kids don't nap anymore. That's why. But we legit did like a drive-by of the dragon to see if there was a delivery vehicle there to see.
Oh.
Yes. Yep. We like picked Felix up and then he went with me. I had to drop my car off to get serviced. And like, he was like, oh, well, I guess we'll go pick up dinner. And I was like, do you want to drive past the store? And he's like, I mean, we'll just go the long way. I was like, all right.
I
Here we
really
go.
wanted this book. I've been so excited for it. Mostly because they didn't, Paizo didn't really like say what everything that was going to be in it. We knew
Right.
a little bit. So there was a lot of surprises in here that were awesome.
Yeah.
Like Strix. I
Yes.
was very surprised to see Strix.
Yeah. So let's talk about. So what's the first chapter comprised of?
So the
Well, what is the book? Like, what is what's the whole premise?
All right, so it's the Lost Omens Ancestry Guide,
Yeah.
as you said. It's literally just more ancestries and heritages, which are two difficult words to say repeatedly.
Yes.
Could you briefly explain ancestry, heritage, and what the difference is?
Sure, why not?
Thanks.
So ancestries are kind of the replacement word for what we would typically say as a race in a role-playing game, which I like the change of that nomenclature. I think
Yeah. I think it's
clear.
super positive overall.
Really. And it makes sense. It's your ancestry, what your lineage is there. So that's things like human, dwarf, elf. Those, nobody wants to use those because we have so many cool new ones to be whatever you want. If you want to be a fox person or a rat person or a cactus person.
They're called Yusoki, Dan. They're
Cactus people aren't Yusoki.
not. They can be.
Yes, rat folk are also known as Yusoki. So there's tons of those in here, a bunch of new ancestries and a lot of new different feats for the ancestries from the the Advanced Player's Guide.
Yes.
There's new options for all of those, which is really cool. Also for things that were in the Lost Omens Character Guide.
Yes.
As well, the Hobgoblin, Lizard Folk, and Leshy.
Mhm.
And then heritages are like specifics about your
Ancestries are the
ancestry.
brand. Heritages are the flavor.
Oh, okay, I like that.
Okay.
Is the
Okay.
way that I like to say it, because
that
the
makes a lot of
ancestry
sense.
could be half orc, but the heritage would be
Half-orc is a specific heritage for the ancestry of human.
okay. It works the same way though.
Orc is a ancestry. You just go with orc.
The heritage is still the flavor though. It'd be the jungle orc would be the heritage off of that ancestry.
Right. So like in the Lost Omens podcast, I played Brennan, who is a Yusoki, and he is a sewer rat. That's his ancestry is Yusoki. His heritage is sewer rat.
Okay.
So now we have versatile heritages, which can be to pretty much any any ancestry things like Dampiers, Changelings. And then we have some new ones that are really cool, like Geniekin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are actually heritages, so almost anything can be a Geniekin, and it's way easier to say. There's no real question about how the heck do you pronounce that word, like in 5e.
Right.
I forgot what it is now.
And more specifically, the genie races are just their elemental races,
Which is super cool.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's almost like we got a little sneak peek of like kineticist type stuff. I was just looking at the Undines.
Yes.
Because they're like the water elementals, and I was like, can I be an ice elemental? Because yes,
Literally,
please.
when I was looking at it, I was like, Dan could play Iceman. Like,
Kind of, yeah. So you can, and then even with the heritages, you still have more specifics that you can choose, which is really cool.
yeah.
So there's some new heritages are things like the Geniekin. We've got Beastkin, which I'm really excited for. So it's kind of like shifters from
Yeah.
D&D editions,
Those looked cool.
which looks really cool.
The Gonzis and the Aphorite,
Gonzis look awesome.
which I really like that they added those early. Those are generally races that get added in pretty late into a game worlds, or at least in Dungeons and Dragons past. They generally don't go with the law and chaos races
Right.
anywhere near this close to release.
Yeah, the Genzi look awesome.
They do.
So I was trying to figure out just what an Aphorite was. They didn't seem that much different. But so correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like good ASMR, evil tiefling. They don't have to be evil, but it's kind of aligned with like
no,
devils.
they're aligned with law and chaos. So,
but I was going to say
perception.
but Aphorites
are then law and
and Ganzi-
Ganzis are chaos. Kind of covers the four parts of the
Correct.
alignments.
No.
Okay. Like I said, tieflings don't have to be evil, but they
Right.
are descendant of devils, which are.
Or demons.
Right.
Can they be either? I thought they were only devils.
Nope.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I read that in this.
Nice.
They have many heritages. Dan?
Yeah.
Why don't you just
But-
stop putting them in a box?
Well, so I said, Claire, help me out if I'm incorrect here.
But
I'm trying to figure out
perception-
Aphorites.
Typical perception of a tiefling, they're very often not welcome in societies and stuff because of just like the negative connotation of their lineage.
Sure.
Yeah, they
So-
get a bad rap for sure.
Yeah.
One thing I do like about Aphorites, one thing I love about this book in general is that you could play an X-Man practically. Like if you want to be like Colossus, you can be an Aphorite and have like silver skin,
Yeah.
which is really cool.
So one thing that really struck me, because so many of these, I was like, all right, these seem really cool, but what kind of character would I be able to make from this ancestry or this heritage? So if it's like any of the expanded ones, like the rat folk, it didn't really have this, but any of the newer ones, they have the you might ... So like Aphorite, you might seek to make something work just a bit better, whether a physical object or process. You might enjoy learning the intricacies of a language, machine, or profession. You might gain satisfaction in working alongside others. Others probably believe you're rigid in your beliefs or habits, that sort of thing. So you can really build your character, figure out what you specifically want to play and how you want to play that based on these suggestions. They give you a physical description, talk about the society, the alignment and religion, customs. They go really, really far into it. And then you were talking about, Dan, they talk about the new feats that are available. So because some of them I was like, what would you even play with this? How would this even work in a party? And I was like, oh, all right. Some of them. There was one, though, that I want to talk about specifically that I was like, that just doesn't make sense. I have to find it, though.
Something that really stuck out to you.
Yeah.
I really like how they do these things where it's not just the mechanics, which obviously is a big part of Pathfinder.
Yes.
Of course. But there's so much in there that help with the role-playing aspect as well about the culture of these different peoples and how they often have a bunch of different cultures depending where they are in the world and that kind of thing to really help drive the character of it, not just, what rules do I get?
Right.
Right. And we, as you know, if you're watching this, we're really big into the role play part of it. So we don't have metagamers in our party. We have people who actually want to role play the character,
Yeah,
the ancestry,
sure.
the heritage properly. One that kind of struck me as being I don't know how this would fit into a party. They seem really badass, but the Strix. talks about they're reclusive. They really just like defend their own habitats. So that would be really interesting to see how someone would justify like joining an adventuring party.
It's funny that you picked out the Strix in particular because I'm really leaning towards my next character being a Strix, possibly a Strix Dampier or Dampier. Vampire. Really how do you say that?
Dampier.
And is Dampier okay?
Yeah.
I stole this from you, but you can have it.
But the Strix are really cool. I love the Strix. They're big. They're not like large size, but they're tall, like birdish people. They've got feathered wings. They've got talons for feet. And they're really cool. They're often associated with Cheliacs and being slaves of Cheliacs.
One of the best places in Galarian.
Right, I know you love Cheliacs.
Yeah.
It's really funny that I was flipping through this book yesterday and I saw Strix and I was like, oh, cool. I just learned a little bit about Strix from an actual play podcast where they're interacting with Strix. I never really heard of them before. And I was like, these guys are pretty dope. I want to play a Strix. You get wings, but I like what they did to balance things. Like, yeah, they have wings and you can play different sprites that have wings, but they kind of limited their flying abilities, like hardcore.
Yes.
But it said if you talk with your GM, they, you know, if they want, they can allow you to have like a 15-foot fly speed. Just they need to know that it's going to break every encounter.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. Congratulations, you will only be fighting in 5x5 hallways from now on.
Right.
With very low ceilings.
Otherwise, the wings just make you better at jumping, which is kind of interesting. They do have a really cool feat, which is basically like feather fall all the time. They have nestling fall, where you can fall from any height, and as long as you are aware of what's happening, you can just glide and fall without getting hurt.
That's really cool.
So
how would you justify this character in a party, like an adventuring party?
Especially for the Lost Omens podcast, because we are playing Extinction Curse and we're part of a circus, I feel like that character can fit in really well. If it's something where I could have to bring in a replacement character in the future because death happens in Pathfinder, I could see this as like, I would like the idea of a Strix character who like his whole, we call groups of birds all have all different names.
Clutch.
That's murder of Strix.
I thought of a clutch of hens.
I was thinking clutch as well. Maybe they all were killed and he's just kind of wandering and finds this place and fits in because Strix ancestrally are not fans of humans because they've been enslaved by humans for a long time.
Yeah, so my thought very specifically for playing a Strix in the Lost Omens campaign that we're currently playing is, you'd fit right in.
Yep.
Right, the perfect thing, because our party already hates humans.
Yeah, the first three things on the Strix list are you're super loyal to your friends and family. Step one. Step two, you probably don't like humans.
Yep.
Yeah, you're golden.
I was like, perfect. And then he can do like cool acrobatic feats of like, instead of like tightrope walking, it jumps and falls and swings around in the air a little bit before he lands and whatnot. And I was like, I kind of want to do this character now.
Yeah. I would like to really spend more time with this book and maybe develop some NPCs for the circus because as of right now, like up until this point, I've kind of imagined like most of the people working for the circus are probably humans, but
probably just because most people in Galarian are humans.
Right.
Yeah. And we got to weed those guys out pretty quick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like we could have like a couple interesting like
ticket takers, ushers can be humans. That's about it though.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of our circus becoming like it's the whole thing's like a freak show where everybody is these crazy races and their ancestries and these. I
mean, I want to
just
put
doing
that
weird
term
things
on it.
Yeah.
I mean, people of multiple races can just get together and have a circus. It doesn't need to be a freak show, Dan.
Oh, just that's the term that goes with circus most often.
Right.
So I'm just saying that instead of it being a sideshow, that is the whole show. Is these outrageous things, and I love that.
Speaking of sideshows, though. Did you take a look at the Flesh Warped at all?
A little bit, yeah. I didn't get to read through the whole thing, but they look super cool.
Yes. So I guess the premise behind them is they are, you have a couple different ways to get one. Either experimenting with technology or magic or aberration-y goodness. They're borderline aberrant humans with
a mouth.
All sorts of physical ailments, additional hands, additional mouths, eye nipples, like the whole shebang.
Like
nipple eyes.
Nipple eyes,
even. Frankenstein's monster.
That was literally the first thing I thought was like, it's like Frankenstein's monster.
It's really, really cool. I like that one a lot. I love their unusual anatomy rule where they just get +1 to resist disease and poison.
I did notice that they used that a lot in a couple of different new ancestries.
That seemed to be a common one for sure.
Yeah.
That and dark vision.
Yes.
That's another one that I wonder, like, how well realistically, like, it's super cool and very unique, but how well realistically would a character with that heritage get along in the world?
Yeah.
You know?
Other campaigns, I could see that being difficult to fit in. Again, for Extinction Curse, easy.
That's not an issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and it's all kind of they're super open book. I mean, the physical ailments or whatever that you have are kind of super open form. I really like how they kind of future proofed a lot of their feats early on, because some of them are things like, you know, you have a giant stake as your arm or whatever, or an extra tail or a bite attack or a sting. And it's not permanent because your body's been manipulated in so many ways.
Okay.
I didn't get that. I didn't get to
really
the feats
cool.
of the flesh warp. They're not permanent?
No. So you can literally almost retrain them to be something else.
Oh, living weapon.
Yes.
That's really cool.
And later on, you can kind of do other things with them. It's super cool. You can get gills and
You
fins.
get
And
mutate weapon later with that. So you can change that up. Gills is really cool. Again, you can make an X-Man and you're like Darwin.
yeah. One of the feats they had in there, the way they described it was you have like a mouth somewhere on your body, and when you get wounded, it just like opens up and yawns and just sickens whoever's attacking you.
That's so great.
That's really cool.
Use it like once a day or whatever, but
Yeah.
it's just like,
oh
yeah.
my God, that's awesome.
I got
That is
stabbed
really
and then
cool.
it like, you know, just did a
and my other mouth opened up and freaked him out.
Freak out.
So the ancestry I was most excited for this book was on the cover. And I was just like, they're bringing this to Pathfinder? That's amazing. Is the android.
yeah.
Because that's, you know, one of the main ancestries or whatever they call it in Starfinder, of course. And I just love this, how Pathfinder isn't just like feudal fantasy stuff.
Right.
There's machines and whatnot all over the place randomly. And then I love the idea of the androids, where even if an android dies of old age, like the body repairs itself as it's dead and the soul leaves it, and then a new soul just comes into the body.
Okay.
So like, I love the idea of playing an android and you're like the 4th or 5th soul that's inhabited this body.
Yeah.
And sometimes they can have memories of previous souls in there,
That's really cool.
which is really neat.
yeah.
I really like the feats for the android, where I guess they all kind of have this nanite system inside them.
Yes.
And what you choose to do with that, whether it's healing or really kind of a big laundry list of different stuff that you can kind of use those to apply to, is super rad.
Yeah, you can glow
Yeah.
to like be your own torch, because the nanite things appear on the skin, usually around the face and on the arms. And then like they have things like you can have internal compartment in your arm where just like a thing pops out and you just boop, you got this thing in your hand now.
Better than a cheek pouch.
Yeah.
They even have like laser pistols in their pictures, which is a little much for Pathfinder for me, but like whatever. If it fits the campaign, fine.
I
Right.
really like that they're kind of taking an unabashed approach to what they're putting out. Like they have some of the stuff out to play test guns and things like that. And they're putting it out there. If you want to use it, use it. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to.
Right.
Right.
Just because they exist somewhere else in the world or not exist in your world, that's okay. You can run whatever game you want.
Right? There's no hard and fast rules about the world you're playing in, even if you're playing on Galarian.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want.
I feel like that's a really like bold thing for them to do, considering like the history of and the rigidity of like D&D historically, where
Yeah.
it's very like you do
it this way.
and like that's it. And if you try to deviate, then you're kind of like cast out of the general
Yeah.
fandom in a way. Like, how dare you
I
try
think.
to
Oh, sorry.
No, that's right. But like, how dare you try to deviate from the norm of like swords and bows and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they learned a lot from first edition because they introduced kind of gunslinger out of nowhere. No one was really expecting it. It wasn't part of the playtest initially. And and people didn't respond to it super well.
Mm-hmm.
Some people were all about it. Other people were like, well, how can I have flintlocks in the same world that I have rifles? And like, it was just, the community never reacts how you would expect, especially with stuff like this. I expected to see a lot more animosity against the androids, like out of the gate. Cause I was like, oh, now these nerds are just going to get all hard and bothered because there's robots in their peanut butter. But
to be fair, they're cyborgs, so it's a little better.
yes.
I will not stand for a robot in my peanut butter, but a cyborg in my peanut butter?
Yeah, they're mostly biological. They still have to eat and stuff,
Yeah, I'm all right with it.
which is cool. I love the idea. I was definitely like, well, next time I have to make a character for Pathfinder for whatever reason, I'm going to do an android. Now I'm like, but there's so many other awesome things too.
The only
I don't
thing
know.
I saw people flipping out about, and it might not even be in the book. Did they add drow as an ancestry or heritage?
Drow are not in this book,
Okay.
Not specifically.
which I'm fine with. 'cause
So-
Drow are so overdone for me.
Right? Like, remember back in the day, that was the most like outlandish thing you could play was a drow elf.
Yeah, right.
What?
Yeah.
As a person who's read a number of Drizzt novels, Drow are just so overdone.
Mm.
They're mentioned because they're talked about for like the Flesh Warped. They're often created by Drow.
Yeah.
From the Dark Lands,
Right.
but I'm fine with them not being there.
I wish they were just, so they were there. I
They
don't know.
weren't in because they don't have anything for core book race ancestries in this book. It expands on ancestries.
Oh, because
from-
Orc was in APG, right?
Yeah, so expands on
Gotcha.
ancestries from the Advanced Player's Guide and the Lost Omens Characters Guide, not the core book. So there's nothing in here for humans, elves, halflings, goblins, dwarves. Am I missing any?
I don't think so.
Which I don't care. I don't want to play any of those races anyway. I want to play these cool new ones like a cactus leshy.
Yeah.
So freaking cute.
I can't ever remember the name of the character from Marvel vs. Capcom 2 that was a big cactus guy that you could play, but it definitely gives
that
off the
orb.
same vibes.
Had a big sombrero.
Yeah.
Amigo.
I think it was Amigo, yeah. It definitely started with an A.
So now the
Yes.
different ancestries and heritages, they either have next to them uncommon or rare. What's the difference and what would a player need to consider? Like, is that something that you would need to consider when you're making a character from one of these?
I think that's there as a real softball to just be like, hey, you should check with your GM.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah, that would become up to the GM whether they even allow that. So like if you didn't want androids in your game,
Right.
you can say they're rare. They're too rare. They're not in this area of Galarian or this world or in my setting if you're making up your own thing, but
Okay.
using Pathfinder rules. You could say the GM can say, I'm not going to allow that in it because they don't think it fits their idea of the world. And I like
Oh, baby.
that.
yeah.
Cactus leshy.
For our games, I'm assuming everything's open all the time unless a GM specifies there are no androids in my game or there
I'm
are
fine with
no
it.
geniekin in my game.
Yeah, I
The
don't
more
like
the merrier.
restrictions on that type of stuff personally. It just feeds into that toxic GM.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That
Right.
It's just like, well, no, you can't do that because
And I feel like if nothing else, I
Good
would
one.
make you explain. And I mean, you would have to come up with, if you're rolling a secondary character, you would have to come up with a way of how you are getting into the party anyway. So,
Right.
I feel
that's
like I
the
would
GM's
make you-
responsibility.
no. I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm going to do as little as humanly possible for this game
Fair.
forever. But like, if you can justify, like, why would there be an android here at this time?
Right.
Why would you join this party? Yeah. That's just part of
Especially-
your backstory.
Especially for the kind of games we're playing for the actual plays that some games, if you're playing at home, it can just be like, all right, and then this guy walks up and they're part of the
Right.
group now. And not everybody cares about that so much, but I feel like the way we're trying to tell these stories is that it needs to make sense to some degree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Did they add anything for Shoonies?
I don't know what that is. So I don't
They're
think so.
the little pug people.
I don't think so.
No.
They're not official, are they?
There's an index stand.
What?
Shoonie.
There's not like the closest thing we have to a dog type race is Kitsune, which are fox people.
Nothing Shoonie.
No, Shoonies a race. I don't know what book it was in, but
I don't think it's a Paizo official one.
yeah, it's on the SRD, so it has to be a Paizo official one.
Norgorber.
It could potentially be. Sometimes they have additional things for free on the website. Because I think there's one of the heritages, something to do with Aslantes, are on there, but I don't know. Maybe that's where that is. Maybe that was like,
It does have a separate symbol, so that's because it's with them and the Azarketti.
that's what it was. Maybe that was like additional material for Advanced Player's Guide or something.
Could very well have been.
But if I could have been a dog person,
Oh yeah, it's part of the organized play stuff.
Cubby the dog-faced dog.
he's the best. He's a dog that can talk, and his name's Cubby, the dog-faced dog.
Exciting.
Yeah.
So exciting.
So what stood out to you in this book?
The Flesh Warped, massively. I thought that was such a cool addition. I was not expecting that in any way, shape, or form. I expect elemental races to be usually pretty early and expected.
Right.
The O-Reed have been one of my favorite races for or ancestries for a long time. So I was really happy that they all got in there. And they made them the O-Reed, the Earth Elemental.
Oh, okay.
I
haven't memorized all the names quite yet. Getting there.
I've always enjoyed them because it's usually pretty hard. I like to play. Loved the Kineticist and Inquisitor in first edition.
Yeah.
And it was sometimes a little bit difficult to find a player race that had Wisdom and Constitution. So those were kind of the way to go. I also love the art for the O-Reed very specifically. Normally, I think when we see elemental earth people, they look like Korg from Ragnarok or something like that. And in one of the pictures there, it's like a green stoned dude with like gold, almost vein.
He looks like he's like a copper person that has corroded and is covered in verdigris.
Yeah. I thought he specifically looked like an Arizona iced tea can a little bit. But
that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
But I really like that they kind of put a different spin than even they normally do. I thought the Ifrit looked awesome. They look more magma-y than like
Cat
in the past. They've done the flowy, just fire hair, and that's kind of it. But because they're a versatile heritage now, you can have an O-Reed or an Ifrit of most races, which is awesome.
Yeah.
That's the one big delineation between this and 5th edition.
Right. It's not just
you can apply Tiefling or Aasimar or any of the elemental races to any of the traditional races, which
very
is
cool.
It's really cool.
Awesome.
I like it. I love the
awesome.
idea of versatile heritages. Like
Same.
It's not just I'm a human, half whatever. I'm a goblin that can control. Well, I was going to say fire, but goblins only love fire. So that'd be a real happy goblin.
What was I saying that I wanted? Like a monkey goblin?
Yes, you were very excited for monkey goblin.
Yeah.
Now, what are the monkey goblin? I haven't looked at them.
So that's was one of the heritages for goblins. Was that in the core book or was that in?
Well,
was that in the Advanced Player's Guide?
I think it was in the Advanced Player's Guide.
So I think that added new heritages.
Yeah.
So if you are a monkey goblin, you couldn't be like a monkey goblin geniekin.
Right.
Because those are the monkey part is they're both heritages. You have to choose one or the other. You don't get a race, an ancestry's specific heritage if you take this other one. I'd love to see you play a monkey goblin. That would be
how fun would that
hilarious.
be? Oh my God.
It sounds
oh my
great.
God.
I don't see monkey goblins. What were they in?
I want to say it was the Advanced Player's Guide, but I could be wrong.
It's right if you want to grab it. It's in my spot over there.
Yeah.
There's an awesome picture, the little furry goblin with a tail.
It's like orange.
Yeah.
It's really, really cute.
I use Nethys for so much stuff that I'm sure there's just something.
The archives of Nethys are so great and so useful. I just wish I had pictures.
Right.
But from my understanding, they can't.
They do.
Do they
All the
sometimes?
pictures I was posting in the group chat were.
Oh, I was wondering where you got those from. I didn't realize they had. Usually they don't.
So now, in your opinions, do you think it's more important to choose your ancestry and heritage and then choose a class from there? Or do you choose what class you want to play as and then figure out which one? Because Tim, I know that you were saying that it gets tricky when you're looking for like the certain bonuses and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot less of an issue in second edition, which is awesome.
Yes.
Mhm.
But yeah, I normally go class first, and then I figure out ancestries. And
Cool.
That's funny because I usually go Ancestry first,
really,
just because it's more of what the character is going to look like in my head. It's
gotcha.
based on the Ancestry as opposed to the class.
I'm always trying to fill so many roles that other people don't want to play. that
Right.
I
Yeah, because you
normally-
always make the last character of the party, and it's like, all right, well, we don't have a divine
Right,
caster
what do we
or
need?
a
arcane
caster or a ranged fighter.
or a face. So I'll just figure out how to do all of those.
Just be all of them. That's interesting too, because that your different styles of creating a character go very much with your like personalities and strengths as people. Where like Dan, you are the very like visual, artistic, like you can picture it in your head and then you make it from there. Whereas Tim, you're like the more like analytical, looking at stats and then building backwards. So I like them.
No, it's because Dan's a super selfish player and says, I'm playing this, and everyone else has to work around it. And then a
Right.
I
bunch
really
of
want
other
to
people
play
do that.
Yusoki.
He
Once
had
I
the
saw him in that
character,
book,
yeah.
I was like, I'm playing a Yusoki. I don't care what else.
Yeah, the character picked before the
Yeah,
podcast
exactly.
was made.
Exactly that
Yep.
mentality.
But I chose to play Yusoki Investigator so I could be the skill monkey because a lot of people don't want that role.
Mhm.
So I was trying to fill that early.
I disagree. Everyone loves Skill Monkey.
Really? You think so?
Yeah.
Maybe just I never liked it in the past. I always wanted to play like the barbarian, or
That's-
I wanted to play the
that's fair.
frontline fighter kind of character.
Yep.
So I was trying to go out of type.
I mean, it ruined my Skill Monkey character, but whatever, Dan.
You had so many different ideas. Maybe it is the
Um,
core book since you flipped through that section 3 times.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe I'm lying.
whatever.
No, you
I don't remember.
def-
There are too many books.
no, there's not.
There's so many books.
It's only been like a year and a half. We got a lot to go.
I know. Oh, I know.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I figured it out. So, yeah, it's called Tailed Goblin. And I just didn't read the Tailed Goblin description, which says you have a powerful tail, likely because you descend from a community of monkey goblins. So I'm assuming that that's the same thing.
I guess so.
Yep.
Cool.
And the character guide is where they're from.
Oof. We were very wrong.
Oh, yeah, I don't have that one down here.
Yeah.
Tim,
Yes.
the one thing you were talking about as you're reading through stuff from this that you're really excited about was all those other ancestries we talked about got new options. What do you think about the orc
The
war
war
mask?
masks I thought were rad. Because I constantly feel like orcs get overlooked a lot, and they're the strong race when you're playing the big dumb barbarian, and that's what you go for.
Overlooked or just one note?
Yes.
Mhm.
So I love when they give them kind of a more tribal community flavor, and the war masks are exactly that, like in spades. And it's a feat tree that kind of builds off of itself. You can create this war mask, and if you want to continue kind of investing in it, you can do that. And it gets all sorts of like neat kind of once a day or once per target use abilities as it levels up. It's certainly an investment. But some of the later ones are like when you demoralize somebody, you do mental damage to them. They're then immune to that for the rest of the day. But I just think that's awesome.
As a reaction too.
Yes.
Which is really cool. The Mask
That is
of
cool.
Pain you can take as a 9th level feat where if the creature you successfully demoralized takes 2d6 mental damage or 4d6 mental if you are legendary in intimidation. And then they're temporarily immune to additional damage from Mask of Pain for 24 hours. I love how well they balance this stuff.
Yes.
So it's like you can't just spam it because it works once and then they're immune to it.
Yep.
I love that kind of stuff. So it's not like, well, every orc is going to have Mask of Pain at 9th level because you can just do 46 damage over and over again.
Well, you're not legendary in Intimidate at level 9, but so it's just the 2d6.
But I love how the feat itself built is
Yeah.
future proof. It's just thinking of the future where you can become legendary later.
Mhm.
So then that feat improves without having to take anher feat.
Yeah.
Love that kind of mechanic.
The
building.
automatic scaling, like what they did with the cantrips in general, I think.
Yes.
Across every other edition of Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder, the cantrips in Pathfinder 2nd edition are the best they've ever been. the
Yeah.
most useful. They scale incredibly well, and they just work.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if you used all your spell slots, you don't feel useless
Correct.
as a caster because you still have cantrips that aren't just
Garbage.
yeah.
Yep.
You don't have just acid splash.
And that was one. That
There,
was
but-
one of the big things that Pathfinder did initially from 3.5 was that your cantrips were infinite. That was a huge move in the right direction, and then they've expanded on that even further. Where not only do you never run out of them, they are also always useful because they scale with you as a character automatically.
Nice.
I think that's just good game mechanics where it's like
It is.
there's nothing worse than playing like a wizard and it's like, well, we went through 3 rooms of this dungeon. I'm out of spells, so all I can do is hit things with my stick and hope to not die.
Yeah.
Yep.
Whereas the guy with the sword is just going to be as good as he was the first room throughout the whole thing.
Correct.
I love that the new mentality of making all the characters useful all the time, pretty much. The only spot I found so far, obviously I haven't looked at the whole thing, I haven't read everything in it yet, was the Kitsune, which I'm really excited for. They seem really cool. They can shapeshift back and forth between like a fox person and just like a humanish looking person. They have a cool feat at level 1 called Foxfire, where they can just shoot fire or ice
Yes.
as a magical ranged attack. It's not a spell, it doesn't take a slot, it's not even a cantrip, it's just an ability they have. But it only does D4 damage, and they don't have any other feats later on that improve that. So it's like, okay, that'll be good at first, maybe second level, and then that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was really surprised to see that didn't stack at all. It's nothing like, at
That's
higher
actually
levels.
surprising. There's no other.
The only thing I see, and even specifies no ability modifier is added to the damage roll. Says your Foxfire attack is in the sling weapon group. Like other unarmed attacks, you can improve this attack with hand wraps of mighty blows, which is kind of
that
cool.
scales. Yeah.
So if you have that magic item for, I'm just surprised there wasn't like another feat later on that was like improved Foxfire or something that increased it to like a D6 or D8 or something like that.
Yeah.
Or added your charisma modifier or something.
I mean, that's kind of the trade-off because you can improve it with equipment. They shouldn't double dip. It's got to be one or the other.
That makes sense.
It's unique. Certainly a unique way they went with it because that's not standard.
It's cool.
But it kind of puts it in line with like the orc bite attack and things like that you can take, or some of the races that get claws.
I just love the idea of being a frozen wild Kitsune and throwing ice at people.
Yeah.
Because I like ice stuff.
Be like a little Pokemon.
Yes.
It'd be a Lohan.
Alolan Vulpix.
Yeah, that one. But you can change back and forth. You're not always in that form. I didn't realize that.
It just takes an action to shape change.
Wow.
Change shape is the ability. So you can go to your, they call it, is it tailless? Your tailless form, which they said typically looks like a human, but you can modify it to be some other race that's common to the area that your Kitsune is from. So like you could change into like looks like a dwarf or looks like an elf, but you're still a Kitsune, of course.
And they're a full heritage, right? Or
they
ancestry?
are a ancestry.
Gotcha. So you can have a tiefling Kitsune?
Yes. You can have a Kitsune tiefling.
Yes.
I just like to list the ancestry first. But yeah, you could do that.
Science teacher.
But
Does it matter?
it makes more sense to me personally.
Oh, gotcha. So you corrected me with a personal preference?
I didn't correct you.
Gotcha.
I followed up with, I like it that way better. Because I love the idea of a Kitsune sorcerer.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of standard issue, right?
Yeah.
That's the way to go.
Well, especially, I mean, their ability boost is charisma and free, so it makes sense that way. But I don't like to play that way all the time.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Like when we played, when we did the haunt that you converted from 5th edition, I played a dwarf sorcerer, and he did perfectly fine with that charisma flaw. We were level 5, so I got to boost it anyway. Back, I think he still had like a 20 charisma at that point.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
That's cool.
And they have rules in there for alternative ability flaws too. So
true.
You don't need to wait 5 years after the game comes out for them to say, oh, well, it's just rules. You can change any rule you want, like 5th edition.
Yeah.
So I love the idea of the ability boosts in this instead of just rolling for stats. So I know, Dan, you haven't made a character yet since you've been GMing everything for Pathfinder 2.
Yeah.
But I really love this system where you just start with 10 and everything, and then you get ability boost based on your ancestry. Sometimes you get one. No, you don't get them based on heritages, but you get them based on the background that you choose for your character.
Okay.
And then you get like 4 free ones to do whatever you want with. And every boost gives you +2 in a characteristic.
Cool.
Or an ability, they're called in this.
Yeah. I really like the way they did that. We had almost always used point buy when we played first edition. So this just streamlined that a little bit more.
I mean, it's essentially point buy.
Yeah.
Because everybody's going to have the same number of boosts, because every ancestry you get 2 boosts from, typically one specific one and then a free one. And if you have a flaw, then you get another boost to make up for it.
Yep.
So you all still have the same modifiers, like total.
Yeah.
And then those with I think it was the first characters we made, because we did for Lost Omens, we started with a couple adventures using pre-gens. And the first adventure that we played where we actually made characters from scratch, JB didn't realize he had 4 ability boosts to start the game. And he was like, why are my stats so bad? I'm like, why are they so bad? Your numbers are way too low. Like, he was missing out on 8 points of ability.
Yeah.
Which was huge.
One thing I thought was really... I don't know if too much is the way to describe it, but the sprites.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
Their basic, one of their basic abilities outside of low light vision, all of their attacks, whether unarmed or not, are always considered magical.
Yeah, that's kind of a big deal.
It's a strong move.
I think they're trying to make up for the fact that they are tiny, unless you take a heritage feat, an ancestry feat to be small instead. And they only have 6 hit points as an ancestry, which is really low.
It is, but at first level, you can take a corgi mount. So I feel like you have to do something to make literally just not everyone play one and have corgi mounts.
Oh my God, that is the feat, corgi mount. I thought you just meant like they could ride a dog or something.
No, it's
specifically a corgi.
Right there. You can't take this away from me, DM. It's in my ancestry.
Those floofy little butts.
I spent a feat.
Why is there not a picture of a sprite riding a corgi? Come on, Paizo.
Right? All this beautiful artwork, and you're missing out on...
The artwork is really good in this book. It's so good.
It is really good.
Really pretty.
What's this one, dude? It was one of my favorite pictures in the book. It took me a little while to figure out which one it was, because I didn't know much about sprites to begin with. But this is a Draxie, like a dragon pixie.
He's so cute.
He's so adorable. He's like a little salamander with dragon wings and a... Well, in this picture, he's got some kind of weird club, but...
Looks like a rattle.
Oh, man, that's a tough choice. Do you get a corgi mount or just be small instead of tiny?
And then the one with butterfly wings, she's like fighting with a steak knife. Like, what?
Sprites are another one that got very similar to that. The Foxfire feat have the same thing. Based on the heritage that you take, you can do a D4 of damage with like a sling attack. That can be improved with hand wraps and mighty blows.
Oh, nice.
Which
the
honestly,
spark.
I would rather have that. Hand wraps are a pretty kind of standard issue magic item for a lot of games.
Yeah.
So being able to do that and add additional dice versus just upgrade the die later for the cost of a feat up to 6 or something like that. That's awesome. That means you can like enchant it. You can make it flaming or vorpal or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, you're making me like the Foxfire a lot more.
Yeah.
Like hand wraps and mighty blows are super versatile.
Yes.
Because you can just add runes to it and do whatever you want. I can't wait to get deeper into that kind of stuff in the Lost Omens podcast as we get more and more
for sure
of those kind of things, especially having an alchemist in the party. They're not an inventor, which I'm sure will be really good at that stuff when it comes out. Next year, but I think that's slated for September, the Guns and Gears.
I believe so. I from what we've seen of Inventor so far, I'm pretty stoked. They made one of the paths that you can take for them is a pet class, which I am in love with. That'll be rad as hell.
It sounds, obviously, it's very similar to the Artificer from 5th edition, which I'm totally fine with because that's a really cool class.
Yeah.
You can just make a construct that's like an animal companion, but a robot.
That's really cool.
Right? So cool.
Yeah.
Similar to one thing that Paizo does incredibly well is when there is not a direct analog already in the game to something that, say, is in 5th edition. Pathfinder doesn't have the Warlock. They have Witch. And it is not this is just Pathfinder's Warlock. It is a drastically different,
totally different
class with just a whole lot of its own stuff going on, but fills that same like dark pack role.
Yeah.
It replaces the flavor, but with something that is just so radically different, but you can still kind of get the same vibe from. Paizo has great vibe checks, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, they do. Was there one, I can't remember, did you talk about which one, was there anything that really stood out to you in this book, Danny? If you were to make a character in the near future, like if there's something from this book in particular you would probably go with?
That's a really good question.
Oh, you should have been anticipating I was going to ask you that.
I don't know. I told you I was just going to wing all this. So I really liked, let me get to the page, hang on. I didn't read much about any of this because I was trying to read it and Felix was trying to help me read it and it wasn't great. I love the look of the fetchlings though.
Oh yeah.
They're super cool. I don't, they just look like spooky and different.
Right.
Like,
fetchlings are cool. They were Aslantes that fled to the Shadow Plane during, was it Starfall?
Yes.
The destruction of the Aslanti Empire. And because they stayed in the Shadow Plane for so long, they became like shadow people.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
They did a lot for changelings in this book too, which I really appreciated. I've really enjoyed changelings a lot. They're not, and maybe this is just old like 3.5 stuff rollover, is they are not what I thought they were.
Fair.
And
but they're such a big deal when they came out in 3.5.
Yeah.
Eberron.
But I never played one, and the people that did weren't super expressive. So I guess I just assumed that they were like people that could change their shape or whatever.
Right.
So most of that's user error. But I think hag spawn.
So what are changelings in Pathfinder then?
They are so a tiefling is devil blooded or demon blooded. Changelings are hag blooded.
Right. Okay.
So they can't change their shape and stuff, but they usually have a lot of attributes based off of the type of hag that they are comprised from.
Yeah.
They can't change their shape?
No.
Well, I know they're not like full shapeshifters. I was like changelings. Again, thinking back to 3.5 is clouding my opinion on this, is that they were kind of like the Spider-Man rogue chameleon.
Yes.
He could change what his face looked like, and
so that's what I assumed these were. They are not.
Oh, I got to read about changelings then, because
Yes.
I just kind of brushed over them because I'm like, nah, that's not something I'm interested in as a player.
Yeah,
I knew they were hag-blooded from playing that like the super starter adventure that we did.
Yeah,
that was like we fought an ogre, and then there was that changeling guy. And so from that I knew they were.
Yeah, so effectively changelings
cool.
are hags lure men away. They do that until they have a kid, then they kill them and just drop the kid off, if it's not a girl, at the mother's doorstep. So if
one of the like 1 or 2 shots that we ran before we got like into Extinction Curse, the like foe was a changeling.
Yep.
Yeah.
Charlie was as well, and when we did the haunt.
That's right. I knew there was something else. I couldn't remember what it was.
So yeah, and there's a lot of different types of hags. So there's a bunch of different kind of flavors of them, which is super cool because some of them are big bestial, I'm gonna beat you in the face hags, and others are like, well, I'm gonna sneak into your room at night and steal your dreams so that you are a depressed and sour person when you wake up in the morning. You can do all sorts of stuff.
Is that what Lucky's doing with the weird root?
Yeah, absolutely.
Spoiler alert for a different show.
But yeah, I really like changelings. I was surprised that they added a lot here for them.
Nice.
Because they had a little before, but they got really fleshed out, and it's pretty solid.
Another one I was looking forward to, I haven't got a chance to read yet because I've been so blindsided by every other thing in this book.
Right.
It's just what? Is the Beastkin?
Yes.
those are
which-
cool.
Paizo had a preview picture of it up just a couple days before the book came out, and I was like, Beast, are they like shifters from 3.5?
They are.
Same kind of thing, and they seem like that similar idea. I haven't got to read about them much yet, but I'm excited to look into that as well.
So these would be more similar to a 3/5 changeling, but with an animal vibe.
Okay.
They have a ability, so one action ability to change shape. And
What-
yes, they are shifters.
I saw that they're the same idea of shifters, with that they're like descendant of were people.
Yes.
Like they have some kind of were blood in them. Which my favorite character ever was a shifter. When we actually played at 3.5, I was a shifter named Nash, who was a bat
Yeah.
shifter.
Yep.
And he got called Beast Boy a lot because he acted like Beast Boy from Teen Titans.
I like the Dampier ones too, that are essentially like vampires.
Right, it's like vampire blood. Like I love this, how they have all these different heritages and ancestries that are based on established like monsters.
Yes.
Like you can be part vampire, you can be part hag, you can be part werewolf, you can be part whatever.
Well, and the fact
So
that they
cool.
made them versatile heritages, that hags don't only target humans, or
Right.
The Dampier don't only target humans. Like you can do, and it adds so much more that just hasn't ever really been available before, but was so simple to just
You just
allow
do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
You just do that instead of one other choice from your ancestry.
right, D&D's been around for 50 years, and you're telling me now is the first time finally that we can play
Mm-hmm.
elemental elves?
Right? Like,
Yeah.
why was that?
Yep.
Why was
Right.
it only humans for so long? So like I was saying
Um,
before, I love the idea of like a Strix Dampier. So like
Yeah.
I'm a Strix dude that is also part vampire, sort of.
Yeah.
I love the Duskwalkers a lot.
Mm.
Because they're super tied to Grotus and just the whole undead thing. They're people that
Notice.
are super, I don't know, just linked with Pharasma and the Boneyard and thing. I absolutely love it.
That sounds really cool too.
They're undead, but they're not. But they walk
Undead
that
blood.
like line in between. Yeah. So you can you can add them to anything. I don't know if they got anything in this particular book.
Yeah, they've got
Yep.
They have a
got
section.
added too.
Yep.
They got a new set of feats and whatnot.
So
So
there's-
they're blue.
So they're supposed to be, I guess, psychopomp blooded. Psychopomps are the things that like guide souls to the place that they're supposed to actually go.
Something like that. Yeah, the whole psychopomp idea I don't know enough about, but it seems cool. Like I'd play a Duskwalker.
It makes me sad that we spent so much of our early role-playing days playing with my dad, who always made us start at first level, and you could only be like halfling, dwarf, elf, or human.
Core races.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless
Yeah.
you try to do something different and then he punished you for it.
Yeah.
If you're a centaur, then I'm going to play in a giant treehouse or a frozen ship where I just
Right.
fall all the time.
And I see, like, he was obviously like spiteful, and that wasn't cool. I
Just say, no,
worry
you
from
can't
my
be a-
position, like, how much these new things will make my job more difficult, but I think it's going to make the game more fun for everybody.
Well, here's the good news.
So,
From my perspective, is that Pathfinder, that Paizo is thinking of that. And
right.
these things
yeah.
are actually like balanced. They got rid of the whole, what was it called in 3.5? If like you want to
Level
play
adjustments.
level adjustment was stupid.
Yeah.
It was such a overcomplicated, convoluted way to do things.
Yeah.
Where that's one thing I do like about 3.5 is that or about 5th edition is you can play a centaur or a minotaur, and they're just kind of scaled down in their rules for creating a character like
Mhm.
that. Whereas with the Pathfinder stuff, we don't have those kind of things yet. Maybe we'll get centaur and minotaur someday. I would love that.
Yeah.
But what they have is so well balanced that just because I'm playing that Strix Dampier doesn't mean I'm so much better than our dwarf in the
Right.
party.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like we just have different things, not necessarily more or better options,
Right.
I think. Is there any kind of power creep with this? I don't know.
Not
At
really.
this point, I don't know.
So they have a pretty good. I'm sure they have just some massive spreadsheet at Paizo that's like, all right, well, we're going to give them an attack. So it's going to be one of two types. It's one that scales with feats and it's one that doesn't.
Mm.
So anyone that gets an attack at first level, and if they choose that thing, it's going to do this much damage. So they're kind of all across the board going to do the same amount of throughput, but the amount of flavor that can be injected into it is near infinite.
Careful. Starting to sound like you're talking about 4th edition. with that kind of talk.
No.
No, I'm kidding. Everybody's complaint with 4th edition is that every character just did the same thing with a different name.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is happening with Pathfinder 2 at all. I
No.
think especially how different the classes feel all the time.
Yeah.
And how different you can make a class, just like playing a monk. Like using a monk that has the mountain stance versus a drunken master.
Yeah.
They play completely differently.
Right.
I do hope that that's something they flesh out more, because in P1, the stances that they had for monks were expansive and you could do so much rad stuff with them. But we're still super early in the life cycle of
I don't think it's even 2 years old yet.
no.
Wow.
And the fact that we have so many options already is awesome. And we know that there will be at least 4 more classes before the year is up. Because we know, I think it's July. I forgot what it's called. We're getting Summoner and Magus in that book. Something magic.
Yeah.
I forget what it's called. And then September we have Guns and Gears, where we know we're getting Gunslinger and Inventor. And like,
And there may be more in those. Those
there
are
could be,
just
those are
that
ones
they
we
were
know
play
about.
testing.
Because they opened it up to community play testing, which I love that idea. Yes. Let the community, like I know 5e does that with Unearthed Arcana.
Yeah.
But I love that Paizo's like,
Paizo started that with P1. The system was out. You could play it. You could print off the like 500-page manual before the game came out so you could play test it. And they did it with the APG and they did it with a bunch of other stuff. And it was super awesome. You could literally just go to the store, add it to your account, and you had a full PDF playtest version.
That's cool.
So cool. I love that. I love how accessible they make this, where like you've been looking at the stuff on Archives of Nethys.
Yep.
And you have all the same information I do from the book. As far as I know, you might not get as much of the flavor text.
A lot of it's there. All of the things that, so yeah, the big, like the 2-pagers, probably not, but yeah, just looking at, and that was normally the downside. It was like, you get the base mechanics.
Right.
But like, let's look at the Forite, for instance. Yeah, I mean, you get a big couple paragraphs and you get the you might and the others probably in the physical description, society, alignment and religion, ventures, settlements.
Sounds like just about everything.
Relationships within the axis.
Aphorites of the Inner Sea.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you can basically look at this book online for free. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And just the fact that they're okay. That's fine.
And the super important thing, and this was super prevalent in 3.5, was the bloat. A new book would come out and it invalidated the class that you've been playing for the last year. And you would want to like redo all of these things. And they've built that into the system itself. There's retraining. So when a book does come out, if there's something like absolutely vital that you wished you had had this whole time, there's mechanics in the game to do that.
Yeah. But
outside of that, when, for instance, this racial guide comes out and it adds new hobgoblin feats and stuff for a lot of the existing ancestries and heritages, you can still take them.
Yep.
Because you can take any previous feat at an ancestry feat level or scale into it later.
Very cool.
It's dope.
Overall, I really like what Paizo's doing with Pathfinder 2. I liked Pathfinder. I didn't get to play as much of it as I would have liked, but I like how they took 3.5 and made it better, essentially.
Yes.
They streamlined some things and just added a lot more to it. I love the world of Golarion. I think it's really cool. Very unique.
Yes. I don't know what it is. I had tried to get into Greyhawk and I tried to get into Eberron and Forgotten Realms and I just, nothing. And for whatever reason, it all just seemed
the same.
Yeah.
Even, Eberron is quite different, but it was still.
And I don't know if it just wasn't like static enough. Like when I think of Game of Thrones world and maps, as even compared to like Lord of the Rings, they just had different emphases on the structure in relation to where things were in the world. I don't know.
What?
The maps of Golarion are very present. And when you're doing an adventure in Cheliax, you are constantly hearing about things that are happening in the direct neighboring countries.
Right.
When I think of Greyhawk or whatever, everything was just standard fantasy world. I didn't know where this town was in relation to this. Even I loved Neverwinter Nights, and I couldn't tell you where Neverwinter was in comparison to the rest of that particular setting. I just knew it was probably north because there was snow sometimes.
Right.
But
even though it was called Neverwinter, I never found out why it was called Neverwinter when it's like right below Icewind Dale and it's snow all the time.
Right. But in Golarion, for whatever reason, because in all of their adventure paths, they do a lot of great groundwork. And this is the area you're from. This is the background. This is what's going on. And you are going to be going to these other areas for these reasons because, I don't know.
Oh my God, the player's guides for the APs are so good.
And I think that's a big part of it, too, is I never would have known anything about the areas or how different things interact if not for those player guides.
Yeah. Essential.
Because otherwise it's completely up to the DM to be like, all right, guys, well, this is what's going on in the area. And these are the other cities and towns and stuff like that. But they do a lot of that for you.
I think a lot of it, too.
Go ahead.
I was going to say a lot of it is that Golarion is so well defined. And I had assumed for a long time that Paizo was a company that made like D&D content for 3.5. And then when 4th edition came out, nobody liked it. A lot of people didn't like it. And they're like, well, we're going to continue that and make Pathfinder. I didn't realize Golarion was created with Pathfinder 1st edition.
Yeah. And
it was like, I thought that this place already had like a long development time, and it really hadn't. And that blew me away, like how awesome these guys are at this stuff, that they created that world. Because Pathfinder has been around since what, like 2008, 2009?
Was it really that recent?
I think that either I was in college or just out of college when 4th edition came out, and Pathfinder came out very quickly after that.
Golarion wasn't around in 3.5?
Apparently not. I forget where I read it, saw that it was.
I never knew for certain either way, because I never heard of Pathfinder or Paizo until Pathfinder 1. But I know that they had been doing stuff for 3.5 for a long time or whatever.
I believe they created some kind of materials for 3.5, but I read it was an introduction of one of the books. They said how Golarion was born with the game Pathfinder.
Oh, sweet.
So good on them.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. I was going to say, as far as like the player's guides for the APs is a very lazy GM. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to tell you guys stuff because I don't even know what's going on. I'm kidding. I sound like the worst. I was a hesitant GM, so I like dragged my feet. Now I'm over it. And I want to like kind of like walk back on what I said before about how I was worried about how this would make like my job as a GM harder because of all the new options. Like I can always say like, you want to play a sprite? No. I can always say no.
Yeah,
I hate to say no. I probably will never say no.
Right.
If it makes sense. But
but if it's something you think would complicate this or doesn't make sense with the story,
right,
you have a mechanical way to ixnay that. Like, no, it's rare. They're not in this area.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep.
And then just hope and pray that you just actually read ahead. And if there's Griggs in there, literally in the first adventure, that you change that. So it's like, oh, well, these are the only two.
Yeah. These are wild Griggs. They're not friendly. They're wild Griggs. But I don't know what my dad would think of something like this. Like, I think that he would think that the premise was really cool, but I wonder if he were running a game, what he would do. If he would let people be these uncommon or rare ancestries.
I don't see why not.
I think it makes it easier for the DMs, honestly, because it's saying, we're putting this out. You are allowed to play these races, versus making a DM mess around with level adjustments and hit die and all of that garbage.
Yep.
Because you're taking it off of their plate. They don't have to do it. Pathfinder's done it. It fits with everything else. If you really don't want something, obviously the DM, always rules that.
Yep.
But for the most part, they've done it for you, and it's not going to break your game for the most part. From a mechanic.
Right. Nothing in that book is going to break a campaign.
Right.
Even if you let the Strix have a 15-foot fly speed.
Correct.
It just might make some encounters easier for the PCs, but it's not going to break anything.
And you can't have that book in 5th edition because every build starts with variant human. follow a lot of D&D creators on TikTok, and every single time they're like, if you've always wanted to do this, I did the build for you. All right, start with variant human. And it's just like, ugh.
Done.
That's bad game design.
Yep.
If the way you have to do everything is by playing a human, the most boring of all races ever.
A variant human, so you get to pick a feat, which makes them way better than everybody else at first level.
Yeah.
Nope, sorry.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love D&D because we have these things that we get to play nowadays because of D&D.
Right. Like it paved the way.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that it's the best that there is, because it's not.
And I don't want this to just become a D&D bashing thing, but I think objectively, I think by a mechanic standpoint, Pathfinder is, to me, I think it's a better game because it has so many more options. Yes, in D&D, you have tons of different subclasses for all the classes, but I don't know. D&D definitely has its place. You can do lots of awesome stuff in D&D.
I think
sure.
I think 5th edition is a great way to get started. If you've never played a tabletop before, it's super straightforward.
Oh, yes.
The options, aren't books and books. You're not digging through all the stuff. You can just sit down and play and learn the basic mechanics of the game.
For sure.
I think it is a great stepping stone, and I think it's great for new players, and it's great for pick up and play stuff.
Definitely.
Also, if you want to play Rick and Morty or Magic the Gathering or something in the Ravnica universe, they have supplements for it. Like, it's difficult to argue with the versatility of licenses that they have in that particular system.
Yep.
Oh, show.
Absolutely.
So what race are you excited to play? What are you going to play now that this book is out that you couldn't have played before?
I really like the Kitsune, which I know that this is just like added on to what was already provided for them, but
Kitsune are new in this book.
I thought they're in the different chapter where it's like with the rat folk and the lizard folk and stuff like that. Pretty sure.
Are you getting
wrong.
confused with something else?
Yep, I'm wrong. You don't need to look. I'm wrong.
Okay.
I'm just telling you I'm wrong.
Yeah, Kitsune were new in this book, they're super cool.
Yep.
I don't know if they're new to Pathfinder, because I know there are a number of...
No, they were super late stage, though. Like, they were like Kineticist late.
Ah.
Yep. So super excited about that, especially now finding out that you can shapeshift to, your non-animal form.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty badass.
That's really cool.
So
I think that has a lot of role-playing element, too, of... You can just go a lot of ways with it, whether you go into that form on a regular basis, whether you try to hide it, whether you don't try to hide it. Like, I dig it.
Yep.
Or just, I'm somebody else now.
Yeah.
With
I'm wearing a
similar
different
features.
hat. Now my name is Jerry.
Oh, no.
Oh, God.
But overall, this is definitely right up there with the Advanced Player's Guide.
Yes.
For usability and my excitement for it. Advanced Player's Guide might edge it out just because it has 4 new classes in addition to ancestries and heritages.
Yeah.
And I mean, my character is purely built from the Advanced Player's Guide.
Yeah.
But this book is so great and adds so much that I just want to make a bunch of characters. I just want to play a bunch of like one shots and whatnot and try a bunch of characters.
Yep.
This is a type of book where in other systems that I've played before, I completely ignore. I don't get excited about something like this because it doesn't have new classes in it.
Fair.
Yep.
For the first time, literally ever in my tabletop playing career, I am excited about lore books. That all of the Lost Omens stuff that Pathfinder's put out, or Paizo's put out, is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all great.
Like they are. I don't know, just something about the way that they do their stuff and how they flesh out the gods and regions and stuff is just so much more intriguing to me now.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's very immersive too.
Yeah.
Which is really great. You can really make your character like so multidimensional, which is wonderful.
Yeah. Just don't. Once you start thinking about like what kind of god does my character worship, and then there's a list of
and how does that affect their decision-making process, and
well, and I love even in the Gods and Magic book, it talking about how every god treats other gods and thinks about other gods, because it's not always what you think. The law gods don't always just hate the chaos gods just because they're chaos.
Right.
I think it's super cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
Nice job, Paizo. Thanks.
Yeah.
But initial reactions, I think.
Oh,
two
big thumbs up. This book is fantastic.
And we'll probably do another one of these after we've had a lot more time with the book because we've had it for
24 hours.
24 hours.
Yeah.
So.
And we recorded last night, so you couldn't even read it last night, really?
Yeah, I looked at it for 10 minutes before we recorded, and then
I was editing all day today too. So I was just perusing through yesterday. I had like 1 hour where I was just exploding in a group chat of like, there's this and they have these things now. And look at this other one and there's pictures. Like,
look at the pictures.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, if you're playing Pathfinder, if you're a character, if you're a player as opposed to the GM, definitely get this book.
I think
what I'm trying to say.
I think if you're the GM, you get this book too.
I mean, you certainly can.
Because the GM has so few opportunities to, especially if you're a forever GM, to actually play something. So, I mean, this has got to be super exciting to be able to play NPCs that you'll never get a chance to play as a PC.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But,
and there's just so many cool ideas in there.
Yeah.
That you could turn. They don't have things that are like explicitly like these are adventure hooks, but there are plenty of things in there that can, generate new ideas to become adventure hooks.
Mm-hmm.
So I just had a really great idea. I can't tell you though.
For the Lost Omens podcast?
Yeah.
Nice.
I had a really good idea.
I'm excited. She's probably going to kill a beloved NPC. It's my go-to move.
No, I'm the opposite of you. I want to do something rad with a beloved NPC. Not Cubby the dog-faced dog, though.
He can do something rad as long as you don't kill him.
He's going to be a Sprite mount.
I adore that.
When the little bat sprites show up.
Yeah.
That is just a weird aside in the sprite thing. So you can choose, at level 1, the corgi mount, or to talk to just bats specifically.
Because one of the sprites is a little bat sprite. So
yeah, but
I love that.
By bats specifically.
Right. And it's not even, you can just use diplomacy on them.
Right.
It's so good.
That's incredible.
Oh, their creativity in these books. I love it. They have so many good ideas.
And I love that it's not all like, just like power. It's like corgi mount. Obviously, there's like an important mechanic that goes with, but it's fucking funny.
It is.
Sprite, I can't help but picture a little corgi butt. I was listening to a podcast and they're talking about if you own a corgi and you're not putting a thong on that thing, what are you doing? Just for like a picture, not like to take it for a walk, but like.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
But they were specifically asking listeners, if you own a corgi, please take a picture of it with a thong on and send it to us.
If anyone watching or listening cosplays as a shoonie, take a picture in a thong in your shoonie cosplay and send it in.
It's getting weird.
That's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's totally.
I think that's fine. Anyway, make sure to check out the Lost Omens podcast every Monday. Wherever you get podcasts, really.
For sure. Yeah. Danny's running us through the Extinction Curse adventure path.
That's me.
And it's been a blast.
I do the thing.
Face hurts after recording from laughing so much.
Yeah.
It's very funny. It's very funny. I love editing it because then it's funny again.
You were laughing a lot while editing today.
I know.
I kept wanting to be like, what? But
Ben was talking about his twig and berries. Because it was the Valentine's Day episode when Tim brought the gummy rings.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, things got a little out of hand on that one.
Yeah.
Oh, we all get sugared up and it's fun. So
that is what we do. We are definitely sugared up while recording that.
Yeah.
Okay, check out Lost Omens Podcast. Check out everything else that Professional Casual Network has to offer. Check out professionalcasual.com. Want to support the network, you can always check out patreon.com/professionalcasual. Get access to the video version of the Lost Omens podcast and see all of our beautiful faces. And JB.
No, everybody's
JB's
so freaking cute.
He's passed.
I know.
He's passed beautiful face.
I know.
JB.
I just call him out to make myself feel a little bit better because he's so beautiful.
Yeah.
You just have a really good looking crew. Like I say it every episode, but I mean it.
And every time we see any video of other groups that stream games, she's like, oh, man, we are all so much better looking.
We have way more sex appeal. Way more sex appeal.
That's super not toxic. But yeah, subscribe down below. All the links are in the description of the show notes.
Thank you.
Thank you.